Welcome to the electrifying world of the Marketing AI SparkCast, the go-to podcast for uncovering the revolutionary influence of artificial intelligence in the realm of marketing. Join Aby Varma, a visionary in B2B marketing, as he guides you through the dynamic and ever-evolving landscape where technology meets creativity. Each episode promises to ignite your curiosity and inspire you to harness the formidable power of AI to redefine the future of marketing. Get ready to fuel your mind with innovative ideas and trailblazing strategies that will set your brand ablaze in the digital marketplace.
Hey everyone. In this episode, we are joined by Jessica Hreha. She is the head of marketing, AI strategy, and transformation at Jasper. Jessica's journey from leading the marketing AI council at VMware to a current role at Jasper is nothing short of inspiring, and you'll hear all about it from Jessica herself. She'll share how she has championed AI adoption within her career at VMware, at Jasper, and with Jasper's customers. And then we'll also talk about some of the ideas of how you guys who are tuning in can do the same thing and play that role of an AI marketing evangelist within your own organization. So with that, Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
No, this is great. We are so happy and thrilled to have you. Why don't we just start with you just sharing a little bit about your story and your journey with AI and how it eventually led you to join Jasper?
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, if I imagined myself or told me that I would be focused on AI solely in marketing in an AI company, I wouldn't have believed you. So it's definitely a journey how I got here. It really starts back in kind of spring, early summer of 2022. Actually, I found out about the Marketing AI Council through a board member, who was a co-board member. And I actually remember specifically questioning the fact that there was a conference solely dedicated to marketing and AI because I actually said, really? Like all marketing AI? And he was like, yeah, it's a thing. And then what happened was I took a course from Kellogg, Northwestern, exec education on AI, digital marketing, automation. It was on digital marketing, AI, automation, analytics. And that was the first time I ever found out about Jasper. There was actually a video we had to watch and a case study we had to do about how we would use Jasper. And I remember texting one of my startup friends saying, you have to use Jasper to ramp up your content because I said to myself, I'll never get this approved at VMware.
Right.
Find out, fast forward a couple months later, VMware is in a trial with Jasper. It was actually our product-led growth team. And that team, priorities changed, the team disbanded, some of that work came onto my team. And then I had the opportunity, if I wanted to create a new business case and, onboard Jasper kind of from the beginning. And so my team got their hands in there. And I'll never forget, of course, the more writer on the team, she wasn't super impressed. It was the first time she had seen something like that. But the rest of us were thinking, this could be really interesting, right? From ad variations or from getting social copy out faster. So we created this. So that's how I found out about Jasper, right? We created our hypothesis around this pilot because at VMware, we spend a lot of money on agency fees. And they take a really long time because we use a couple of agencies to create promotional campaign bill materials. That's what I was head of global demand content strategy. And so we thought if it's possible to draft our social copy and promotional bombs internally, we could spend more time on editing because we are so squeezed for timelines. We weren't editing at all, right? Or barely. And then we were late getting our packages into market. So save time, save money, increase quality, and meet our stakeholder deadlines. And that's how we started out with Jasper. And ultimately, though, to get it approved, my VP had me sign up for 50% reduction in agency fees. So this is 2022 fall, kind of going through October, ChatGPT happens, right? Now, all of a sudden, everyone better understands generative AI. And some people within VMware start to get really into it as well. One person I found out because they posted on LinkedIn. Other people I found out because they saw me, they heard we were using Jasper. They literally looked up procurement, data and found my name next to Jasper. And then emailed me literally saying, are you the source of Jasper? And so I realized there were conversations happening in a lot of different pockets within VMware. And this was such a new thing that was happening. Do you remember? Like everyone was freaking out about
Yeah.
ChatGPT, right? So people were literally asking our brand team, can we write blogs with ChatGPT? And they're like, what is happening? Right? Like, what is our
Right.
POV? What are we going to do? So I just brought a bunch of people together. They called it the Marketing AI Council.
Uh-huh.
And I will back up for a second because that agency friend did give me Paul Reitzer's book, Marketing Artificial Intelligence, in December. So I do think I was a little bit predisposed to the idea, I must have been, right, of a Marketing AI Council. But we brought that group together. We created AI usage guidelines because we realized we had to tell people what to do and what not to do. We created AI literacy and programming and ultimately expanded our Jasper licenses from just my team of 9 to 765 around there, right? Global marketers.
Wow.
A lot's happening in that year, right? A lot's happening because I had a really strong team around me that was really passionate about doing this above and beyond their day jobs. And really, VMware was acquired by Broadcom. A lot of different changes happened within that structure of the organization. And I had the opportunity to take a next step. And just Jasper was a very natural spot for me because I kind of already felt like a part of their team. I had been on their town halls, at least one of their town halls. I was close with the C-suite, as a customer. And I think that's just the kind of partnership that Jasper wants to have with their enterprise clients as well. And I remember specifically throughout that past year being like, I'm not an AI expert. Are we secure? I think so, based on everything I've read, right? But I felt like I had an AI expert in my pocket, like because I could text people at Jasper, right?
Right.
Starting at Jasper, end of January, really January 30th, I kind of felt like, oh, I know everyone here. It's familiar company for me. And so that's kind of how it all came to be. And now I'm in this role to help our other enterprise clients along their adoption journey and continue to evangelize and advocate for responsible AI adoption. So I don't know what the next step in my career looks like beyond this, but I feel like you got to ride the wave, I guess. And I'm really passionate about, AI adoption, I guess, now too. So we'll see where it
Yeah.
goes.
Now, amazing story. And I can tell, I mean, just the excitement that you exude when you're talking about AI and marketing is completely perceptible and palpable. So let's dig in a little bit more. So at VMware, when you started off the AI council, was it the willing and the able, or were you pitching and trying to recruit other marketers within the council? And how did you basically start the process to go from 9 to 700 plus, like you were saying? And then what were some of the key challenges that you faced along the way, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So our council ultimately had about 35 people on it, but we started out our first meeting maybe 8 to 10. And it was, the one person I saw posting on LinkedIn who happened to go deep into all of Marketing AI Institute's content over holiday break. It was her who gave me the inspiration for the council. We sort of started together. The brand people who were specifically asking about what we were going to do, they started writing a POV. And then through just those two groups, it was like, well, we need to add this person because he's been talking about AI. And we should add this person because I think they're really interested in AI. So it was a lot of brand content. We had some campaign people from the beginning. And so we ultimately kind of just naturally got to this group of 10 through kind of networks of networks, right? We're extremely large. I mean, it was over 1,000 with contractors, organizations. So it's kind of who knows who to start. And then from there, ultimately, we realized we needed to have representation from every single function in global marketing and each region. So we did go out and not recruit. We more so kind of thought, I think this person would be great to have on the council, or one of our exec sponsors outside of our CMO was our VP of marketing technology, basically. And so we had the MarTech director come onto our council, right? So things like that, marketing ops being included naturally. So most of the people on the council were what I would call AI enthusiasts. And in fact, the people who did the work of the council were the ones who were enthusiastic about doing and learning, which is why I talk so much about finding those AI enthusiasts. There were people involved that didn't do much, and those were kind of more of the appointed people. So it's why I talk about like find the hand raisers, like look for people who are volunteering and willing to do this work, because it's cool to be on the AI council, but it's not cool to be on it and not contribute, right?
Yeah.
So I think our challenges were, we had to figure out what we were going to do. I did pitch the idea the next week to my VP of Global Demand. I took screenshots from Megan Keeney Anderson's presentation at Jasper's Gen AI conference in February 23 and put that into a deck, like literal pictures of, the stage and the slide on stage, the super, professional, and talked about where we were and what was coming and how big this is going to be. And come to find out, the leadership team, there's a lot going on at VMware at the time. They weren't talking about it and they weren't thinking about it. So I think it was one of those things that was like, thank you, and like, we're not talking about it at all. So like, keep going and doing what you're doing. Ultimately, I had to request budget for us to get certified. And eventually we got our CMO on as exec sponsor. And that's when things just really catapulted from there. But we still had to talk about like, how do we drive interest, education, and adoption across such a large organization? And I think it's why we're all so passionate about sharing this story, because it's so new. And we just kind of,
Right.
I think, felt our way along with it. I think if you hear Accenture talk or you read about change management, all of the things that they talk about are things that somehow we organically did. And so it's another reason I'm so passionate about, like, if you have the right people and the right kind of motivation, inspiration, visibility, leadership support, all of that, like, you don't have to pay 6 figures to a consultant to get it done. You just need to have the right people surrounding you to share the workload and do things, right? Get started and do. I think sometimes those big consultants can come in and slow things down sometimes too. So
Yeah. You talk about some of these things because, I'll speak to hundreds of marketing leaders at events or my local community or network. And I hear in terms of barriers for AI adoption, I hear one is just the fear of AI. They don't know what AI can do for you, or they don't really exactly understand it, how to leverage it. I hear governance. There's like usually, hey, we wanted to do something, but our internal legal compliance team shut us down or IT shut us down and those sort of things. Did you guys face any of that or just pure skepticism or inertia or resistance to change? These are all different sort of things when you try to adopt something at an enterprise company. Did you run into any of those things? And if so, how did you deal with it?
yeah, I will caveat this because I hear this sometimes from different industries, that, we were in a B2B software company, SaaS company, right? So we're more inclined to be innovative and to try out new things. So with that caveat in mind, I think that because it was so early, our legal team, didn't know what they didn't know either. So fortunately, we had them in the very first meeting and they kind of let us do and then just made sure that we didn't step out of line across the way. So they were involved in our usage guideline creation. Um, you know, there isn't anything that I can think of imagery hard pass, right? ChatGPT hard pass for us. Those types of things. It was months and months later till legal actually came out to us with their POV, because they were just trying to consume and learn. So it really, our marketing organization was kind of leading the conversations internally as well. For Jasper specifically, because I did get them onboarded by December, it was a lot of conversation internally about, what types of data we were sharing in there.
Mhm.
So started out with the use case and data that it's already publicly available information. So because my team creates promotional bill of materials, we're starting with a hero asset that's already complete. And it comes from product marketing or from, our thought leadership team. So from our intents and purposes, it's approved and out there somewhere or will be soon, right? So
Yep.
we're creating the promotional surround. So it's all publicly available information. And that was kind of what we had to keep pressing over and over and over is we're not putting company information in there. We're not putting sensitive information. How does this work? IT architecture review board meetings, right? Pen testing, all this new stuff to me from a security perspective. But eventually we checked all those boxes. So that was kind of a bit of a learning curve internally too. And eventually we did go through our data privacy agreement so that we could be more comfortable with sensitive information in the tool. So security was something my CMO kept bringing up over and over and over. I mean, I mentioned it already, but she'd be like, Jessica, we're secure, right? We're secure. And it was like keeping me up at night because it's, you're trusting the information you're
Yeah.
getting. The IT team approved it, right? Like they're the experts from that perspective. Ultimately, they did come up with a Gen AI vendor checklist and all that stuff through the corporate AI council. From an adoption perspective, it's one of those seeing is believing things, right? So everyone talks about learn by doing. You have to show people or you have to experience it yourself to understand what it can do. We approached it from a professional development and upskill opportunity. And I think people generally were excited about that at VMware, right? Some of the pushback came from, for example, some types of roles that were super heads down in launching campaigns in market, right? So they were like, I'm already busy. I'm behind schedule. Like I literally can't learn one more thing. So we already had an AI enthusiast on the council from that team. So she would show the team, start with like a personal use case, showing them how it worked. And then she would show them how she uses it, which by the way is the same work they're doing, right? So you're showing this is my workflow. Look at how you can use it specifically for your workflow. Same. And then she even had one-on-one conversations with that team saying like, tell me, what you're concerned about. Or she would take the approach of, let's talk about something you hate to do for work. Like, what is your least favorite, task that you're doing? Let's see if AI can help with that. And so the cross-functional nature of the council allows for you to have those AI enthusiasts within each department, team, or function who already have the trust and rapport to show the team exactly how it can impact their workflows, but also talk to them from a peer-to-peer or, trusted place to say
Yeah.
like, let's unpack this a bit.
Yeah. I like it. Tap into the pain point because people will listen, right?
Yeah, one of our customers at Jasper actually would go out to everyone and have them record, or she would record it on Zoom, exactly what they do on their screen for certain use cases. And then she actually would go out and send that to vendors and say, these are the processes today. Tell me how you can make this better. So it was also recording the pain point, right? So they could see how many steps it took, how much time it took. And sometimes we don't realize how much time we spend doing something until we're asked to write it down. Right. And
Right.
that's, I think some people are like, oh, yeah, we love Jasper. We love generative AI, whatever it is. But they're like, okay, but we need results. Right. And so that's where some people get really tripped up because you have to go back and think, okay, well, I didn't document this to begin with. So how long would this have taken me kind of pre AI? That way I can know what the benefit was after the fact.
Yeah. That's a good segue into one of my questions, which I hear business leaders and CMOs often talk about ROI. Like you said, what's the benefit? I know you like it, but what is ultimately the ROI of leveraging AI? Can you give me your take on potential ROI for value creation, which internal champions could use to champion AI adoption within marketing teams?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just share first because there's different ways to think about it. And the most advanced organizations right now aren't coming at it from an ROI perspective. They're coming at it from like I have no doubt this is going to make my team more productive.
Right.
Like I have no doubt that they need access to the internet and to Google. Another customer had their CEO, they said, eventually, they said, I'm going to get you the ROI, don't worry. And their CEO said, what's the ROI at Google? And
Right.
like CFO walks by and they're like, hey, CFO, like what's the ROI of Google? And he's like, what? Right. So if you think about it, even from a telecom perspective, like I grew up in telecom, right? So what's the ROI on a faster internet connection? Just people want it to work, right? And IT and networking want to get not bogged down. So it's
Yeah.
just something they think, I think we're going to get to that place. And the organizations who are already there are more advanced and more, have more global scale, I think, in their adoption. But I think you need to start out with your main use cases, right? And I think companies easily get 3-4 months into their use case pilot. And they're asking what the results were. But like I mentioned, they didn't document the process and the results in the first place. And that's the biggest step, really,
Yeah.
is like, is it, and then what's the hypothesis, right? So for my team, again, it was time, cost, and quality, but really it was 50% savings in agency fees. And we did hit that. within
Yeah.
6 because there was a learning curve and all of that at the time. So I think what we're seeing, and just to share in terms of results, I see it in terms of time is the easiest one, right? Cost, also that efficiency, productivity. And then once campaigns are in market, you can have performance. And every time you have a result, you've got to unpack what that means. So, for example, we had a case study pilot at VMware that saved $6,000 per case study project.
Mm.
And the goal of the company was to do 75 a year. Well, that's $400,000 in savings. No
Right.
one is going to laugh at you for asking for budget for a tool, right? When you're coming back with that type of ROI for one use case.
Yeah.
Other ones is like executive script writing, right? Maybe saves 2 hours a week or something like that. But then you have to think about, okay, but what are those hours? You can put time or you can put cost on those hours saved, right? Salary. That's easy. Like if everyone was 10% more productive and it's this much per hour, right? How much are we saving? That's an easy calculation to do as
Uh-huh.
well. But also, what could you do with that free time? Like personalization, vertical landing pages. We don't have time to get to vertical product briefs, like because we don't have the time or resources. And I
Uh-huh.
think that's the magic unlock of AI is getting there. So if we can automate or reduce time or cost in this other thing, what does that free up and allow us to do? And
Right.
then how does that, align to our business goals? So we take a value engineering approach too to say like, okay, there's increased operational efficiency, improved customer experience, control brand integrity, and then drive revenue through marketing. Within those, right? What's important to you? So this makes sure that your use cases align up to your business strategy and that we're focusing on the right use cases that are going to show results to your leadership team.
Nice. Oh, that's super valuable. So I'm just switching gears a little bit and talking specifically about what you see at Jasper. Jasper is reaching out to marketing teams and enterprise organizations and trying to position itself as a marketing AI operating system of sort. So have you seen, or at Jasper, do you guys talk about customers with real tangible results? And could you share a few if you have any?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple prepared today, and we're always sharing case studies and use cases, on the website and on LinkedIn and stuff too. But Morningstar, I think, has a really interesting case, and this is the financial company Morningstar.
Uh-huh.
So they have a research marketing team that identifies and promotes high impact research, right, to investors and investment professionals. That's the whole marketing team's job. But in order to do that, they have to distill all this complex investment research papers into various types of derivative content, like we all do, right? Which is why I think this is a great case study. Summary articles, blogs, gated landing pages, organic and paid social media, right? But they use Jasper to really scale the creation of this derivative content. So they're helping distill complex information. They're using it to create derivative content, help them break through writer's blocks, so pass that blank page and generate SEO optimized content. So all with the knowledge and like accuracy of the research paper and of, the company messaging and brand that they're putting in there. So what happened was in 2022, they achieved the 40% year over year increase in content downloads. But even more interestingly, that led to 70% growth in MQLs. So when you talk about revenue impacting, like MQLs, right? I feel like that's a huge, huge impact. And that's one use case for them, right? Over a course of a time. Another one that is VMware related, but after I left, some of my direct reports were still there and were involved in creating a campaign bomb workflow. So we had one that was like one shot campaign workflow with all of the bill of materials that we needed, but they further refined that. It's more customized and increased quality on the back end with fine tuning and with the outputs to get what they need. So they estimated $30,000 per campaign per quarter. And so if they do 4 a quarter, that is $500,000 in projected savings, went from 6 weeks to 3 days and 95% accuracy, like in terms of how much more they need to touch the content after it comes out.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And that's again, like, I mean, that's a bread and butter of what that team does, but that's one team in a global marketing function, with a lot of other things. So Cushman Wakefield saves 10,000 hours a year on their research reports. So we have a lot of research. CPG retail customers, product descriptions is one big thing that kind of the first use case you see in that area. So Adidas was on a webinar with us earlier this year and talked about 7,500 product descriptions in less than 24 hours. And when you ask them, well, what would that take before? They don't know because they've never done that much before,
Right.
right? I think that's the really interesting part too, is like, we could have never done this without AI. So it's less on, I think about like less replacing the work that we're doing today, but allowing us to do what was never possible before.
Wow. That's a really unique way of looking at it. It's almost like a double layer sandwich. Like the first part is you can do things faster, but then whatever time that frees up, you can just achieve more things that you've never really done before. So really interesting to hear about that and some actual tangible success stories. Thank you for sharing those.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We all need
So
more success stories to share, and every use case shared inspires another use case. So
absolutely. This entire episode is how our listeners and marketers can really champion adoption within their own marketing organizations. And your story and your journey was super inspiring. We spoke a little bit about the actual ROI, real tangible results. So it's not just talk, but based on your experience at VMware and your tenure at Jasper and all the customers that you've interacted with, what strategies would you recommend for marketing professionals who really want to be that evangelist and champion inside their marketing organization for
yeah,
AI adoption? Talk a little bit about top five, top three ideas of how they could get started. Because I know that there's a lot of marketing professionals. I speak to a bunch who will always talk about that. Hey, I'm really interested, but we aren't really doing anything at a company level. We're waiting for orders to come down from the top. But I sort of speak to them and I tell them that you don't need to wait for that. I think maybe you can be that person. They're like, yes, we do, but I'm not really sure where to start. So I would love to get your take on maybe codifying your experiences and how they can get going and doing the top 3 to 5 things.
yeah. I actually have a 7-step, but I don't need to go through all of them.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been speaking about it. I need to create something digital for it to be able to share. But I think for those people who are like, I want to do something and are waiting or don't want to wait for their company, because that's my recommendation. Don't wait.
Right.
Get started. The first thing you want to do is surround yourself with other AI enthusiasts. You can't, maybe you are, but I would hope you're not the only person in your company who's interested in this, right? So it's easier to do something if you have somebody else or a small team even with you to be able to brainstorm and build off of. So step one for me is building a team of AI enthusiasts. And that may be 2 people, it may be 3 people, and it may be you just stepping up and doing it yourself. I know of customers and organizations who put out a contest of sorts. Like, we're looking for AI champions to lead us through this next phase. And they actually had people submit proposals on what they would do and all this stuff. And then those people got, they won out, right? 2 of them. And then they got bonus for doing that. So that's another way to do it.
Yep.
Then you really want to figure out, okay, of this group, right? How often are we going to meet? All that kind of stuff. But you need to secure exec sponsorship. So even if you're starting this yourself, you're saying, putting a stake in the ground, saying, I'm going to do this. Here's what we're going to do. It still helps to get an exec sponsor along the way. So depending on your level in the company, it could be just that your director is aware that you're interested in this and you're doing it. I had different exec sponsors and VPs based on where we were and what we needed along the way, and then ultimately got to the CMO level. If you're in a small company and you are the CMO or the VP, maybe the CEO is that exec sponsor, right? But the ability to create legitimacy, funding, resources, collaboration, introductions across the organization. We never would have gotten where we did without introductions. Our CMO bringing us to our CTO and CIO and saying, look what they're doing. And then we got a seat on their council once they started that up, right? To our chief legal, all those kinds of things, especially if you need funding. And really just that C-suite or leadership champion, because the culture and change management, I believe, starts bottoms up, but you also need support top down.
Yeah.
Because if everyone else is talking about it or supporting it, then you're kind of by yourself. And it doesn't work as well. And then you've got to define your usage guidelines, right? So even saying, okay, we're not doing anything right now. I'm excited about this. I'm going to pull Aby together and we're going to create usage guidelines. Even if you showed that to your leadership team to get your exec sponsor to say, we need a set of do's and don'ts and how to use these tools, I bet you they would thank you, right? And say like, okay, let's keep moving on that, right? I mean, include legal and IT along the way. And then figure out your education. So you yourself are getting educated, but then start offering up educational resources to the rest of your team. Create a Slack channel. In some companies, anyone can create a Slack channel, right? In others, maybe it's a private channel that you start, but ultimately you get permission to create a bigger one in Teams or whatever. And that's when you can just start to have conversations and share what people are doing. So that's kind of how I would start. And then piloting starts from there, scaling and expanding from that.
Yeah.
What do you think? What's missing from that? Or what do you think people would say?
No, I think that they were all spot on. The one thing I hear people say that, hey, getting people ready and interested in just the concept of AI is great. But then obviously you said it towards the end, like the pilot, you got to pick one use case to sort of prove all of that stuff out.
Yep.
And so at VMware, how did you go about that? Was it more kind of a comprehensive thing that, hey, let's see all the pain points and sort of derive use cases out of that? Or was it just something that you thought that, hey, I've checked out Jasper and let's just start there? I was just wondering, pain point, use case, analysis, technology, was it that formalized flow? Was it very sort of organic and informal and let's just start with this can save me time?
Yeah, the first one definitely wasn't formal at all, but I talked about a little bit, right? We had sort of the problem statement or pain point on my team that we weren't meeting our stakeholder needs in terms of a timeline to get our campaign bombs in market. They took too long and they were impacting performance, or we felt like we weren't turning over enough, right? So then the use case becomes using Gen AI anchored by our hero asset. We're going to create our promotional bomb in-house versus waiting and paying for the agency. So we focused on improving quality, saving money on fees, and speeding time production was kind of how it started. Now, for the rest of the team, the AI council who started piloting other projects, actually what we did is we had a marketing leadership AI summit. One day we brought in kind of VP and up, senior director and up, and we actually had a use case workshop in the afternoon. So we split people up into 4 different segments, like categories. So content, advertising and email analytics, and we had them sticky note, right? And then from there, we prioritized with the CMO's staff team, with our marketing leadership team, which ones we were going to prioritize. And that became our second half piloting roadmap. So then we
Love
kind of
that.
looked at, okay, for us, it kind of started with the hypothesis, right? So it's kind of here's the problem, or here's what we think the application is. And the hypothesis is it's going to improve, increase, cut savings, whatever it is, right? And then we tracked those. We had a pilot lead for each of those segments, and they had separate meetings that they reported to on a weekly basis. We rolled all that up to me and then to our CMO, and our CMO shared that biweekly with our C-suite, the VMware C-suite as well. So we're just really getting a lot of visibility internally that way. But we had some pilots that failed. Our idea was like, it's either going to succeed or fail, but like get it out of the way and move on, right? So that we can figure out what works and what can scale from there. And then the cool thing is, because we provided the entire team equitable access to this secure, approved AI system with our company information in it and branding and all of that, then you get the people who start to use it for other things along the way, right? You have your core use cases you're measuring, but then you find these use cases that come out, like that bubble up on top, or what I call, that's like the gravy on top, right? That's when you get to like 2 hours to 20 minutes for video script writing, right? Like all those little things that still matter, because that could be weeks in a production process because you put it off because you don't have that 2-hour block, right? So all of that stuff becomes more results and more data that you can show that the system is working.
No, love it. I love the workshop, the use case workshop. I was talking to one of the marketing leaders and they called it an AI marketing use case hackathon, where they all sort of got together and came up with it. And the other thing which you mentioned, which I think I personally use this quote. This is a quote from Henry Ford. I just posted this in LinkedIn earlier this week. and I'm going to read it out. It says, the quote was, "The only thing worse than training your employees and having them leave is not training them and having them stay." And I love that quote because a lot of marketers educate themselves, but that's where I think marketing leaders should really take on the responsibility of spending time and effort and money in order to educate marketing organizations about AI, and it would really pay off. And the context of this quote was, I was talking to a marketing leader who was concerned about, hey, we're going to invest in training employees on AI, they're just going to learn and go find other jobs. And I'm like, yes, but what if they don't learn and stay? I mean, that's sort of
Yeah,
the, yeah,
exactly. And you should want your team to upskill, right? Why wouldn't you want to train them? And I feel really passionate about that even before AI, right? So making sure that you're taking advantage of those career continuing ed opportunities that your company offers, or getting approval to go to a conference once a year, right? Or making sure that you're incorporating that into your team's values. So absolutely go out and find your own education, but definitely champion that internally as well. I love that sentiment.
perfect. So, what are some of the trends? I feel AI ears are like dog ears, and Jasper's been around for a bit. And how do you see generative AI evolving in the next few years, and what does that mean for the AI marketing space?
Yeah. For us, this is not necessarily a trend, but it's already here. And I think it's impactful in that I actually have heard someone from the Microsoft AI research team say this as well, that, but it's something we have at Jasper now, is that AI systems will start to prompt you for the information it needs to provide the right context or output. So like in Jasper's Copilot or Create Flow, it actually, based on what you're trying to do, it asks you for the context it needs. Who is your target audience? What are the keywords you're trying to rank for? What is the outline? What information do I need basically to give you the best output? And it uniquely asks you that based on what you're trying to get. So it's this idea that you don't have to have a 3-page prompt to get stuff done. The AI system kind of learns and knows what it needs to ask you to get the best output. And for me, that's a great way to increase adoption, because prompt engineering, I think, is a barrier in and of itself, right? Mike Chaput from the Marketing AI Institute talks about having a 3-page prompt, which is why I use it all the time, right? Showing about what good looks like. You could have up to, Chris Penn just posted this, right? Like 5,000 words in a context window in Gemini. Like, who's going to write all that in a prompt and know all that? Now, the process of prompt engineering is really interesting for all marketers because it forces you to come back to the basics. Who are you writing this for? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to get them to do? What do I need to do? Almost like marketing 101, right? Like product
Yep.
marketing asks to create a content asset, and you're like, cool, but you should be asking them all of these questions, right? Like, what's the goal here? So I think that's a good part of it all. But the other is, right now humans prompt AI, and I
Mhm.
think how it is, Jasper, is that eventually an AI will prompt humans. So, for example, AI may prompt you with data or insights based on the platforms that it's connected to, and then offer recommended actions. And it may have already even drafted those recommended actions because the AI system can work 24 hours. And then the human becomes the orchestrator, right? The director, kind of making the decisions on what to do or not do, or maybe even those recommended actions make you think of something else. That's what I always say. Like, you're not lifting and shifting anything, right?
Right.
You're using it as inspiration to get to what you really want to put out there. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're using more and sometimes you're using less, but it definitely helps you get there faster. So that's kind of where I say this. Agents is definitely coming soon. Yeah.
Yeah, with agents, I've seen some of the cool things. I'm oversimplifying it, but a single prompt campaign, like you could provide information, the context of the ICP and the goal of the campaign and information about your brand. And then with a single prompt, you could decide what's the output of the campaign and campaign assets, and have agents go mass create those things. And it's sort of mind blowing when you think about it, where in the non AI way of campaign creation, which companies are doing today, and we've all done it, it could be multiple people over weeks trying to pull together a
Wow.
really amazing,
Weird. Yeah.
right? Like, and the new world is going to be completely different. And so with agents, I feel that, wow, that's really going to be a game changer.
Yeah. Fun anecdote. At time we were a cable business class, the campaign team, which I was tangentially involved with in like field marketing and content, spent an entire year with an agency on a campaign. Campaign never launched.
Wow.
Doesn't that break your heart? And like so many hours and money wasted. So I do feel like we can get there faster now. And the other example in terms of this idea of AI prompting you is like AI discovers a new target audience for
Right.
you that you didn't think of because it's seeing all the data and all of your trends and knows what you're trying to do from a, marketing strategy perspective, but it's giving you new insights to do bigger things like that that really impact, revenue in the business.
Yep, for sure. So, home stretch here. Last question about your go-to resources, right? Love to know what websites, what influencers, what communities can people go to and learn and soak it up. There's so much, there are so many out there, but I'm really curious about as to what your go-to resources are.
Yeah. You've heard me mention them already. I would not be here. Our Marketing AI Council would not be where it was without the Marketing AI Institute. For me, Paul and Mike, they've been doing this for 10 years. It's not like it's something overnight. And I feel like they have a very neutral approach about it all. So I live by the podcast, by their events, by their webinars, and the community Slack channel. I myself use when I have questions for things because no one is an expert, right? Although I believe Paul and Mike are. And
They are.
you can't be an expert in all this thing, right? So
Yeah.
like I am not an expert in AI for video or podcasts because I don't do that right now. Now Jasper's becoming increasingly multimodal, in terms of acquiring clip drop and with imagery and all of that stuff. But like I don't pay as much attention there. So sometimes I leverage community for those types of resources. So I love the community. I follow Ethan Mollick. I have this book here. I also am listening to it on audio.
Noted that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel like he's the first one to come out with insights into models and stuff like that. Excuse me, Christopher Penn, I think is from an analytical perspective, data analytics. I have so much respect for him in terms of how he thinks about this from a more technical perspective, but he also goes out with very pragmatic ways to think about things. So I will never forget his keynote at MACON last year. I took so many notes and took back to the team, and I continue to learn from him too. So those are kind of mine in a nutshell.
Amazing. Well, that was so much fun, Jessica. Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely. I obviously love to chat about this. We could go on for hours, right? But your podcast audience probably has other things to do as well. So happy to have people connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're listening, my last name is spelled Hreha. I'm sure it'll be in the show notes too. But always happy to connect with the community and answer any other questions people might have.
Awesome. Yeah. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. I think this was one of my favorite episodes. And if you enjoyed today's discussions, like Jessica said, connect up with her on LinkedIn, connect up with me, throw us some questions and get inspired. I really hope that this touches you guys in more ways than one to a point where you can get something going in your organization and get people aware and excited about leveraging AI in marketing.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.